Hey everybody, Tyler Cruz here, also known as Always Dizzy. It's been a bit of a wait, but I am finally back with my tournament recap from round one of the 2024 Jack Taylor Memorial. I've got my score sheets here. I've finished analyzing the games and annotating them and ready to go here. So yeah, as a quick reminder, it's been about 6 months, I think, since my last tournament. Really slowed down on the tournaments lately. It's just getting so expensive to go to them. Always have to book a hotel because the closest one is about 2 hours away. And yeah, so I've slowed down on the tournaments, but I will try to go to more as my channel gains popularity, because then I can justify the expense a little bit more. At least that's what I tell myself. Anyways, I've been to this tournament many times before. I can't remember how many times, maybe 4 or 5. It is the closest tournament to me, so I tend to not miss this one. If you see my eyes darting off here, it's because I've got all of my notes in chess space here and I'll be reading from them. So when I registered to the tournament, I noticed that there was a lower rated player in the Premier section, and I played in the Premier section in this tournament. There were 2 sections. There was an under 1300 and then a Premier, so everything above under 1300 or above 1300. If you pay a fee, you can play up a section. So I'm used to that, but there was a player who was quite low rated, who was in the Premier section, and I assumed that the organizers would bump him down to the lower section. But apparently they didn't, for whatever reason. Probably they felt that he deserved to be in the higher section, which I'm not debating. But it's just that he was so low rated that there was no upside for me playing him. Now, I'm not revealing his rating until the end of this video because I thought it might be fun for you guys to guess what it might be based on his play. So I will reveal it at the end of this video. But yeah, the pairings were posted within about maybe 15 minutes or so, maybe before that, maybe about 30 minutes or so before the tournament, before the round started. And of course, I get paired up against this guy. So I was really, really upset. I was texting a couple friends about it and like whining about it, just because there's no upside. If I lose the game, I lose a lot of rating. If I draw the game, I lose a lot of rating. If I win the game, I gain nothing. So there's no upside to playing apart from playing a slower time control against somebody. And it's extra annoying when you spend the money to go to a tournament and the time and the travel, right? So I was just really pissed off. Now, obviously, this is not my opponent's fault. Is it the organizer's fault? Kind of. But it's really just an unfortunate thing at the end of the day. And these lower rated players, they need to get their rating from somewhere. Unfortunately, it often seems to be from me. But did I win? Did I lose? Did I draw? We'll find out. But in any case, I was pretty sour playing. And this was a younger player too. I should have looked up his age, but I think it's something like, I think he's like 16. I think he's 15 or 16. I think he's 16. And Russian, I believe Russian, based on his FIDE profile. And so, yeah, just letting you know my mindset going in to the game. Just pretty annoyed. You go to these tournaments for different reasons, but one of the main reasons is to try to improve your rating. And there was literally no upside for me playing this. Okay, I'm just repeating myself here. Yeah, and when I looked at this guy's history, you could tell he's underrated because he, apart from being young, his quick rating in the CFC, the Canadian Chess Federation, we have two different ratings. We have a regular rating and then we have a quick rating, which is like blitz and rapid. And he played only in one regular tournament and only 2 games, so he's super provisional. But his quick rating is actually relatively high in comparison. I'm not going to reveal what that is either. Okay. So, with all of that said, let's jump in. So I played e4. I was white. And from what I recall, he played very quickly in the opening, like whipping out the moves as fast as he could. And often younger players will do that. I don't know if it's to intimidate. I don't think it is. I think they just like to whip out the theory that they know. So he played the Carol Khan. And I enjoy playing against the Carol. Not sure how great my results have been, but I feel pretty confident against it. And so I played d4, d5, and knight c3. So I'm old school. I play the classical variation, which not many people play actually. I think almost everybody these days play e5, the advanced variation, which is fine. It's just not something that I play. And he took. I recaptured. And then here, black, I think it has 3 options from what I remember. So there's bishop f5, which is the classical variation. That's like the old main line. Then there's the Tartakower. How do I get rid? Oh, I have to redraw the arrows to get rid of them in chess space. There's knight f6, which is the Tartakower variation, which is pretty popular these days. And then there is the Karpov, or the modern variation, which is knight d7. I don't think there's anything. I think it's just those are the 3 main lines. And these days, mostly you see knight f6, followed by bishop f5, and then knight d7. You don't see knight d7 too often. So my opponent played knight f6. And I recaptured, or I captured, and then he recaptured with the e-pawn. And ever since the whole fiasco with the coordinated team prep against me in the 2024 New Year's Open, I've been paranoid about playing this opening in, or facing this opening in tournament play, especially since my opponent was whipping out the moves. If you're curious what I'm talking about and you haven't seen it already, watch game 1 from my 2024 New Year's Open in this playlist, my Over the Board tournament playlist. Watch game 1 from that tournament, and then watch game 9 in that order. And then you'll see what I'm talking about. And actually, to be honest, if you haven't seen them yet, I do recommend you watch those before you continue with this video. And I think you'll enjoy them. And they're directly applicable to this game as well. Should have had some water sitting here. Okay. So I played c3, which is not super common. I think most people play bishop d3 immediately. The little nuance with c3 is that white can follow up with queen c2 after playing bishop d3, and then there's pressure on h7. So it's a little bit of a nuance there. Black played bishop d6, just preparing to castle. I played bishop d3. Black castled, and I played queen c2, as I said. So putting a bit of pressure on the h-pawn and making black decide how they want to deal with that, whether they want to play h6 or h5, or there's other options as well. Sometimes there's an interesting line where black can even just push the f pawn to f5 and just give it away. Give it away for free, and there's literally no, I shouldn't say there's no compensation, but there really isn't much. But there's the line where black just plays f5, gives away the pawn, and frees up that square. Or actually, no, not frees it. I don't know. To trade off bishops. I guess that's the compensation. But it's just interesting because there's nothing major for that pawn that black gives up. Anyways, my opponent played h5, which is a slightly unusual move order, but it doesn't actually affect black's typical plans here. The typical plans are this knight travels to f8, with the dream one day, I guess, of going to g6. Sometimes it goes to e6 as well, where it hits the d4 pawn, which can become undefended if white plays c4. And so that's kind of the main idea here for black. And this is actually a very solid setup for black as well, these 4 pawns. And the queen often goes to c7, but it can also go to d7, I think, in some cases. Is that right? No. Well, it can when the light squared bishop goes to e6. But often players will put their queen on c7. The knight goes to f8, and then black kind of tries to push in the center a little bit and put pressure on the d4 pawn. So those are black's typical plans here. And another plan is this pawn drives up the board to try to create some weaknesses to white, but it actually never really bothers white. And I think it's a long-term weakness for black. So he played h5 first, and I played knight e2, which is typical. Not playing knight f3 because I'm just making sure I'm recording here because I would hate to start over. Knight f3, I think just bishop g4 is the main cause of concern, because then the knight essentially needs to be defended and it's just awkward for white. So plus the knight on e2 helps support f4, and it can go to g3 as well. So it blocks checks. Actually, that's another reason. If you put the knight on f3, there's rook e8 check, and then you most likely have to play bishop e3, which is not terrible, but it does block the e file. So the knight typically is best on e2 here. And so here, this is the first time that my opponent slowed down a bit, because up to now he was whipping out the moves very quickly. And he ended up spending 5 minutes on his next move here, which raised my confidence because it told me that he didn't actually know the opening very well. So did he prepare against me, and that's why he was playing quickly? Probably not, but you never know. But yeah, again, the fact that he paused here, because maybe he thought 92 looked weird or something, even though it's very normal. This is theory. Or maybe another possibility is maybe he realized that he played h5 out of sequence, which again is totally fine, but maybe that's what confused him, instead of playing like knight d7 or rook e8 first. In any case, he played rook e8. Yes, and then I castled, and he played knight d7. And knight d7 is fine. It's okay. Again, this typical plan of putting it on f8, but I think a little bit, slightly more accurate by a hair is h4, because if he doesn't play h4, this knight can traverse to g3, where it's pretty nice. We're hitting h5 and f5. Apart from clearing the e file. So h5 or h4 here, I think is more accurate for that reason, stopping the knight from going to g3. So he played knight d7, And then I did remember knight g3. When the opponent allows you to put the knight there, it's usually good in this opening. So I was happy with that. It's like just a tiny, 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 tiny edge for white here because of that. And then my opponent played queen c7. So queen c7, perfectly natural move. In fact, in the database, I saw there were, I think there were like 3 games in the database, and 2 of the games they played queen c7, and the opponent, the players that played queen c7, and this is over the board classical FIDE rated tournaments. Black was over 2,400, and the other player was over 2,600. So queen c7 at the strong grandmaster level, they are playing queen c7 here. But actually, the Stockfish says that this is a mistake, which is amazing when 2,600 players are playing this. Also, in the Lee Chess database, 20% of players that are 2,000, that are rated 2,000 or higher, play queen c7 here as well. So with queen c7, black is indirectly defending the h5 pawn, right? Because if white takes, then black can take on h2 check here. And in the game, I considered taking on h5 anyways, allowing black to give a check, and then just moving my king. And so I thought about that, but then I'm just reading my notes here. I'm trying to remember if there was a particular line. I think I just felt that it was a little bit too risky, because I didn't know how to follow up after that. For example, knight takes h5, bishop takes h2, king h1, and after bishop d6, yeah, I wasn't sure what to do here. And it just I felt like I had a nice position already. I know I did. And I thought this was a little bit too risky. But the computer loves this line. So I didn't play this in the game. I played something else. But the computer loves, well, so I played f4, but we'll get back to that. But that's what I played in the game. But the computer does want to take the pawn, because after bishop h2 and the king h1, and then the bishop goes back to d6, there's a key idea here that you have to see, and it's not the next move, but it's the move after this next move, which is bishop h6. We're threatening to take the g7 pawn, and so if black doesn't defend it, then, well, we're just going to take the pawn. And if black defends it with the bishop, then this is just completely winning, I believe, for white. So there's different ways to go about it, but one such line is rook a e1, because black's rook on e8 here is undefended. So after trades, and there's not a great option here for black, but I think a natural move here might be knight b6. So knight b6, then after bishop h7 check and king h8, bishop takes g7, right? Bishop has to recapture. And then rook e8, and it's just going to be mate. So bishop f8 and it's mate. So very deadly line, and that's pretty much forced. I mean, knight b6 is not forced, but there's no good other option here. Like I don't see what black is going to play here. Black's just dead. So bishop f8 doesn't work. And after bishop h6, if g takes h6, it seems like white has a good attack here, but how do you proceed? And there's one key move that you have to find here that just is winning. And it's easy to miss because like the 2400 and 2600 tournament players missed it. And that is bishop c4. You take this bishop off of the b1 h7 diagonal and you put it on this one. And what that does is it opens up g6 for the queen. And black's pieces are just not in a position here to deal with it. So bishop c4. If knight f8, I don't have the engine on, so I'm trying to. I'm wondering if again we go rook a e1. I will put the engine on here to confirm. But I'm thinking maybe rook a e1. Oh no, sorry. No, I don't need the engine. I can just take on f6, right? So I can just take on f6 there. So yeah, so after bishop c4, black doesn't really have many good moves here again, even though white is down a piece, because white is threatening queen g6. And if king h8, then we have bishop f7 and rook f8, which is the best defense here. Queen g6 with threatening to take on h6 mate. So the rook takes, queen takes, knight f8, queen takes f6 check, and we bring in the rook. And this is still a game. This is still a game. Like, this is not game over yet, but white is winning here. Or white is better, I should say. White is better. And black has to be very careful here. So, and that's what's black defending perfectly there. So, yeah, that it's a bit of a line there, but yeah, I'll just show that again. So takes, this would have been the best way to play here. Bishop h6, and then after black takes, bishop c4. That's really the key move. That is the key move, and it's not easy to see from far away. Okay, this is gonna be a long video. Holy crap! So in the game though, I played f4, which is it's an inaccuracy mainly because it would have been better to take on h5. Now often c4 and f4 work well in this opening, but I have to be a little bit careful when I employ it, because while it does give us space and stops black potentially from playing f5, it does take away a nice square from white too, because the bishop can often go to f4. But it wasn't really a bad move, other than we should have taken on h5. Okay, so my opponent played h4, and I played knight f5, the most natural square for the knight. And then my opponent played h3, which is a mistake. And so here I was scared to take the pawn because of my open king. And I knew that my position, or at least I felt that my position was pretty good, better than black. Like I would take white here every day. And so I felt that this is probably something like, at least before the last move, because I wasn't sure about the position after h3, but I felt white was better, maybe +1, something like that. And so, and my opponent was lower rated, right? And so I didn't want to take chances against him, or unnecessary risk, because I felt if I just like I wasn't sure. I thought maybe taking the pawn was better, maybe, but maybe not. And I just didn't want to take that risk when I felt I didn't need to take the pawn, and I could maybe take the pawn later, because this is quite advanced and it can't really be easily defended by black. It's way far away from white's pieces and pawns. And so I didn't end up taking the pawn. And one of the things that scared me was if I had taken the pawn, c5, and after d takes c5, bishop takes c5 check, knight d4, and then b6. I was scared of something like this, and I just felt like, am I being greedy taking that pawn? Because now this bishop comes in, and it just looks scary. Like my king is really exposed here, very exposed. But the computer actually did want me to take the pawn. If we look at that line again, c5, d takes, and instead of d takes c5 here, once the g file is open, I could have just played queen g2. So I don't have to worry about this pawn. I just played queen g2 and I'm attacking again. So I failed to see this idea. And if g6, I think might even be able to take the bishop here and then take on g6. I'm not sure about this. This is probably not enough. No. But okay, so g6. Maybe I could go to. Actually, I don't even have to move the knight, right? So I don't know. Maybe even just a slow move like bishop d2 here. Because I am up a pawn, right? So there's no rush. And black doesn't have many good moves here. So I could probably just play a slow move like that. Try to get the rook traded off and then run the h-pawn. That looks good to me. So anyways, I should have taken the pawn. But here's the core thing that should have made me take the pawn. Did I put this in my notes? Yeah. So in the game, well, I played g3, but g3 weakens my king anyways. Maybe it doesn't weaken it potentially quite as much as had I taken on h3, but it weakens my king anyways. There's still this diagonal that's open, right? And there's still like c5 and b6. So I should have just taken the pawn. If I'm going to weaken the king anyways, I might as well take the pawn. But anyways, I played g3, and my opponent played knight f8, and I played bishop d2, just connecting the rooks, and my opponent played bishop e6, and then I played c4 here. So c4 needs to be, first of all, c4 in this opening is pretty thematic, but it needs to be played with caution, because I've had, if anyone is familiar with my tournament games, I've had a lot of problems with this d4 pawn. Again, if you watch games 1 and 9 from my 2024 New Year's Open tournament, I've had issues with the d4 pawn in both of games. But I didn't want to allow black to play c5, because that just kept bothering me, letting black open up this h1, a8 diagonal, and also start opening up the center. I didn't want to allow that, so that's why I played c4. And so c4 was fine here. It was good, but you just got to be careful when playing it. Yeah, and so if c5, then you just play d5, and white is much better. So my opponent played knight g6, and I played, oh yeah, oh god, the flashbacks. So here I took on d6 here, and this was a bit of it was just simply an oversight. I forget at what point I was thinking about it, but obviously there's this fork here on f5, right? And so I forget if I might have been looking at it even here when I was thinking about c4. I don't think I was, though. It was probably here. And I think it was a bit of a knee-jerk reaction. I think I took on d6 pretty quickly because then I saw f5 there. And yeah, my score sheet said that I only spent 1 minute on this move. So I think I just got a little bit too excited here. And the problem, of course, was this whole idea. So I took on d6 and he recaptured. The problem is, as soon as he recaptured there, I realized that I can't play f5 because there's queen takes d4 check. And even though my okay, this might have been okay. I'm just trying to remember what I was thinking. Now, I think I might have accounted for that. I think I might have accounted that when I took the bishop. I think I might have accounted for the fact that after I fork, I can give up this pawn. I think I did calculate this. But what I failed to realize, and this is where I stopped my calculation, is that after I move the king, even though he can't give me a check with the bishop, he can attack my bishop on d3, and he just won a pawn, so he'll just be up a pawn here. So so for here, for example, where's my line? How come I have bishop d5 in here? I shouldn't. I think I just put that. Did I just? Yeah, I don't know why I have that in there, but yeah, because here I think he can just play knight e5. No, that's not right. Is that right? No, because then he might be able to. That's not what I have in my notes. Whoops. My notes here are all messed up here. That's why I'm confused. Sorry, but yeah, I'm not sure if knight e5 here. I don't think it. I don't know if that works, because if I take the bishop, this is, we're down a pawn here, but I'm not sure about this, because this, I'm not sure who this is. I'm not sure how to evaluate this. Maybe black is better here. Hard to say. But simpler, and what I had seen in the game was after king h1, I was just looking at rook a d8, right? And then we can't defend both of these bishops, and we're just down a pawn here. So if I take whichever piece here, and then he recaptures, yeah, we're just down a pawn here. So. But there was another line too, and I'm trying to, my notes are, again, they're all messed up. I think maybe bishop d5. Oh yeah, so this is the other line. Yeah, so but this is hard to see, but there is this bishop d5 check here, and then after I recapture, no, that can't be right. Oh yeah, it's check. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, so if there's this line. And if we move the king, what's the follow up here? I'm curious. I'm gonna put on the engine. Sorry for being a little bit sidetracked here. This is a computer line. I'm trying to remember. Oh, it's just mate. Okay. Oh God, that's embarrassing. Okay, yeah, it's just mate. Why did I have to use the engine for that? So there's a mate threat there. So we do have to block with bishop e4, and then after rook takes, black is better because of the discovery, and then also like rook e2 check. So Bishop d5 was also another threat, but in the game, I saw this. That was good enough for black for me not to want to play it. So sorry for going way down that rabbit hole, but during the game, yeah, after I took on d6, I didn't play f5 because of this. And again, when I took it, I thought that I would be able to I thought I would be able to give up this pawn, and then it wasn't until the moment that I realized I couldn't actually do that because he had other ways to keep playing there. So at least I avoided that that issue, and I didn't play f5. I played bishop c3. That being said, here there was a much better move here for white that I missed, and in hindsight, it's easy to see because I thought I could take and then play f5 and give out that pawn, as I just said. But I can simply just move the knight away. I can just put it on e3, and then my f5 threat remains, and I'm still attacking here. So yeah, that would have been the best move here. But I didn't do that. So sorry, getting back to the game. So I played bishop c3, which is the best move. And as I said before, I've just been burned so many times on this d4 pawn that I didn't want to let that happen again. And so I just straight up defended it. And I just remembered that bishop c3 around this point in this game, this is move 17 here, is often good for white. And you also just get the bishop off the d file, which, as you saw in that other line, could have been, it can pose problems. So just so I just played bishop c3 there. And it gives black a bit of initiative to when we defend like this, but I was fine to play it. Okay. Here my opponent played knight f8, and I played b3 here, which the computer says was a slight inaccuracy. Now I considered f5, but gaining more space and well, just that alone. But my idea here, I did have a specific idea. So my idea was I wanted this h3 pawn. And so I wanted to play bishop f5, but this didn't work because black can take on c4. Yeah, sorry about that. So that's why I played b3, because I wanted to play bishop f5, but black can take on c4 here, right? So I played b3 first, so then I wanted to then play bishop f5. But this wouldn't have worked here, and the reason is because if and here is where I can use my notes. If black just played bishop d7, for example, and then I play bishop f5, after bishop takes, queen takes, there's this crazy tactic, computer tactic, rook e3. I think rook e2 also works, attacking our bishop. And if we defend the bishop, black can take the bishop and then win a pawn here. Or wait, did that? No, that wins. That wins a bishop. It actually doesn't work. My whole idea doesn't work for that little tactic, which I wonder, would he have seen that? Possibly. Once the bishops have been traded, it's easier to see that idea. But okay, getting a little bit sidetracked there. Now, one more thing to say. There's a lot about this position. Sorry for that. So instead of b3, f5 still attacks the h3 pawn, but not with the bishop or the queen, but simply with the rook. And I forgot about this idea. So I can just go f5, attack the bishop moves somewhere, and then I just go after it with my rook. I just forgot about it at that moment in time. So the f5, and we attack it with the rook instead of the bishop. Okay, getting back to the game. So b3 was played, and he played bishop g4 instead of bishop d7. And this is a mistake from black because, again, f5 can be played. And again, with this whole rook f4 idea, winning the h3 pawn. Whoops, didn't mean to do that. So f5, and then black is a little bit slow to do anything. Let's just say, I don't know, let's say he tries to start doubling up. We can just go rook f4. Rook f4, he can double up. Well, no, he has to defend. Or defend the bishop, and then I can just attack it, and I'm going to win the h3 pawn. So, yeah, I missed f5 there. Instead, I played queen f2. And I have a note here. Had I played f5, if queen takes g3, wait, no, that was not a note. That was what I just did a second ago. Yeah, okay. So bishop g4, I played queen f2, and he played knight e6. I played rook fe1, rook a d8, all very natural moves here. Bishop e2. He took, I took, and then c5. So c5 is a little strange. That's definitely a mistake because this makes my life easy. At least a lot easier now for white, because then I just played d5, and well, we've got a protected pass pawn in the center, and we also improved our bishop. So this was, yeah, quite a basic positional mistake from black here. He might have just assumed I was going to take for whatever reason. But yeah, I just played d5. He played knight d4, and I took. He took my rook, or maybe this is what he calculated. He thought if d5 he could do all these trades and it would be equal. But after knight d4, bishop takes d4, rook takes e2, queen takes e2, c takes d4. At the end of the day, I've got a protected pass pawn, and yeah. So then he played queen b6. So at this point, I had 33 minutes left. This was 90 plus 30, by the way. This tournament, I should have mentioned at the beginning. So it's 90 plus 30. I had 33 minutes at this point. My opponent had 16, and I played queen d3. He played rook e8. I played king f2, stopping the rook. Well, I think I probably wanted to play rook e1, actually, was my idea. He played queen a4. I played a4, defending the a pawn. And then he played rook e3, which in the first 15 seconds of him playing it freaked me out, because I didn't see rook e3. It wasn't on my radar at all, and it scared me. So surprisingly, rook e3 is completely losing for black. And before that, before rook e3 was played, surprisingly, when I looked at this with the engine, I was very surprised, because during the game, I was very confident here. I thought white was just winning, straight up winning, fairly easily. But this is equal according to the engine. Black can pretty much play almost anything, and it's equal, even though white has the protected passed pawn, and even though black's pawns are weak, there's this h3 pawn, there's double pawns on the f file, and this pawn is about to drop. So even though white is close to winning a pawn here and has a protected pass pawn, it's equal. And yeah, that was very surprising for me to discover. And so rook e3 is a blunder, and you'll see why. But at the time, it freaked me out, and I was it freaked me out, and I got pretty angry at myself at first glance because I had missed this. Instead of that, there were multiple moves here, but I think simplest for black was just queen b4, which indirectly defends the d4 pawn, right? Because if we take it with the queen, then he can take on c3. And there's not really, well, there isn't anything that white can do here to be winning. Like if we move the queen to attack the h3 pawn, again, the c3 pawn won't fall. And if we defend that pawn first, I'm not sure if black would just defend his pawn. Let's see what the computer has to say. Let me turn it on. Oh, black is now better after queen e7. But any other move would have been fine too. But queen e7, black has a small edge here now. Yeah, because then the h3 pawn starts to get felt, right? Because something like this, and we're getting mated. So, yeah, queen b4 and black is completely equal, and there were other moves here as well. So I don't know. I was very surprised to learn that because I really thought white was just winning here. So rook e3 is a blunder because of what happened. I took on d4. Basically, I have to. Otherwise, I'm just going to be down a pawn. So I took on d4. Black took on b3. And this is the reason why his move is not good. And I was slightly fortunate here because, so I played d6, and I just happened to be fortunate in the fact that my queen stops rook b2. Although I would have still been fine after rook b2, but you'll see that comes in handy where the queen is situated right now. But d6, and that pawn is running, and this is the problem for black. And here he played queen h5, which was another move that really terrified me. But once again, my queen just happens to be perfectly placed where it stops rook b2. But yeah, queen h5 really scared me here. In a tournament game, when you feel you're winning, and then your opponent looks like they find they're finding counterplay here, is pretty annoying. But I played rook d3, and again, rook b2 is not possible. So obviously I played rook d3 just to stop queen f3, and he traded rooks, which is probably a good try, or the best try maybe. And he played queen c5 check, and I played king f3, queen c6 check, and I played king g4 here. So obviously I can't just try to trade the queens, because after captures and I go after the h3 pawn, he can just gobble my d pawns, and well, then he can create a passer on the queen side. So I couldn't trade queens here, so I played king g4, and he played queen d7 check. And then I spent 5 minutes here on my response, and I played king f3, which turns out to be a blunder. I was calculating these other lines, which I'll show you. So I looked at f5, right? But I got nervous of g6. That really scared me. But the computer said that we would have been totally fine there. We can take on h3. And after black recaptures, then... Did I look at this? I believe this is winning. Yeah, I'm pretty sure this was winning for white, but I wasn't sure. And I didn't want to go this route. This looked, I don't know. I wasn't sure if I could convert this, but I remember looking at this with the engine later, and it just wants to make really, really slow progress. Like you can move the king, or you can move these pawns slowly and surely, and then bring up the queen and pick and prod, but there's no quick win here. There's no quick win here for white. But that's what the computer wanted to do. It wanted to play f5 here, I believe. Yeah, f5 and then g6. Yeah, and then to take this pawn here. But I decided to go back, and I think my idea was to go king f2. Like, if check, no. I wanted to run to the e file this time. And then I thought that this was not actually going to be a problem for me because my pawn would be faster. Plus, I promote with check. So I went back to f3 here, and he played b6, which is a mistake. And the reason I think king f3, it's not simple why it's a mistake. So I think it's a reasonable mistake to make. But I believe... Do I have it in my notes here? I think it was because of f5. No. Is that right? Yeah, I think it's because black can play f5 now, and now I can no longer grab the h6 pawn, the h3 pawn. So that was why king f3 is not good, because yeah, black just plays f5, and I can't grab that h3 pawn, and black can hold a draw now, apparently. So yeah, easy thing to miss. Anyways, I played king f3, and he played b6, and then I played g4, so that I can go after the h pawn, and also to block f5 stuff. He played king f8. I played king g3, king e8, queen e4 check, queen e6. And here I had 15 minutes left, and my opponent had 2 minutes. I played queen a8 check, king d7. Now I don't think I put it in my notes here, but I think I remember that king f8 was black's best reply. White is still winning here, but it's not as easy for white anymore. It's a slower approach. It's black's best way to defend, but yeah, white's still winning, but takes a bit more work. But yeah, he did this route: king d7, queen takes a7 check, king takes d6, and queen takes b6 check. He played king d7, and then here I just traded queens because this is a pretty simple ending. F takes e6, king takes h3. My a and c pawns self-defend, or they will. So king c6, and then a5. I had to think here a little bit. You still got to be careful, because if you wait too long, like if I move the king somewhere, like to h4, I think that no, they'll still self-defend. They'll still self-defend. Or will they? Yeah, they'll still self-defend, but maybe it's here instead, and then they won't self-defend. But this has to still be winning. But I just still have to be careful. Yeah, because now they don't self-defend, so it requires more effort. So I created those staggered pawns when they're, when the pawns are two, you could say one file to two files apart. When there's one file in between the two pawns, and they're staggered like this, they self-defend, because if the black king can never approach one of them, without the other one advancing. You know, if he tries to do this, then I bring up the other pawn, and then if he comes here, I approach this pawn, and if he goes after this pawn, I just ignore it, and if he takes this one, then I run this one. So they self-defend, and he played e5, f takes e5, f takes e5, and then I played king g3, and my opponent resigned. So that was a necessary, that's what I have in my notes. I ended here saying a necessary win. It was necessary. And so sit back, take a guess. What do you think my opponent was rated? Okay, so 16 years old. I think he's 16. He played a good game. I mean, both of us played a good game. This was actually a pretty good game. And there was a lot to learn from it, from both sides. And we both missed several things. And I like this type of game because really the type of stuff I learned, most of them, well, some of them were thematic to the opening. But yeah, there were a lot of good lessons from this game. I wish every game was as useful as learning things from as this game was. So you can give it a guess, and then I'll reveal it now, what his rating was. Should be here. 861. So is that higher or lower than you thought? So you can, again, that's why I was annoyed, because he's a strong player. I know this opening pretty well, and so I managed to do decently in it, but he played pretty well, and he's 861, and that's just what it's like in the tournaments here. I know most of the world has a lot of underrated pools out there, but especially in my neck of the woods. I mean, that's just what 800s play like these days, even even lower. And after this tournament, he gained 200 points. So he's going to be a strong player. Give him another year or two, and I wouldn't be surprised if he's 2000 by then. That's just how fast kids improve. So that was round one. Managed to win. Bittersweet because, well, I won, but I gained 0 points out of it. And had I lost, I would have lost a lot of points. But yeah, he's a good player, and he'll definitely be climbing up the rating ladder quickly. And it was a fun game to play, not just because I won, but it was kind of an enjoyable one to play. And once again, many lessons learned from this game. Okay, that was a long recap report. I'll be back with round two probably within a few days from now. They take a lot of effort to make. So yeah, stay tuned for round two. Let me know what you thought about this game, and thanks for watching.